The hidden game of human energy. There's a moment we've all felt, the silent sting of reaching out, offering attention, time, or affection, only to be met with indifference. A message left unread, a wave that goes unreturned, a conversation where your words vanish into thin air. It's subtle, almost imperceptible, yet profoundly familiar. We chase, we seek acknowledgement, we long for connection, and yet, no matter how persistent we are, some people remain distant, untouchable, immune to our pursuit. Why? Why does our effort sometimes meet with warmth and other times with emptiness? The answer lies not in luck, charm, or circumstance. It lies in the invisible currents that flow beneath every human interaction, a silent code, rarely spoken, yet universally understood. This is the game of energy, the subtle dance of giving and receiving, of pushing and pulling that determines who notices you, who values you, and ultimately, who you chase and why. We are wired to respond to energy, to mirror it, to be drawn to those who resonate at the same frequency. And yet, most of us spend our lives chasing the wrong frequencies, exhausting ourselves for people who will never match our effort. Consider history, where the principle of energy has silently shaped outcomes for centuries. Powerful figures, diplomats, and strategists instinctively understood it, even before psychology became a science. They recognized that influence is never one-sided. It flows where it is reciprocated and diminishes where it is not. Kings courted allies who mirrored their ambition. Philosophers gravitated toward thinkers who reflected their intensity. Even in intimate relationships, the pattern repeats. A partner, a friend, or a lover who refuses to meet you halfway drains your attention, your time, your energy. The law is simple in concept, but profound in consequence. When you chase someone whose energy does not align with yours, it is more than a personal frustration. It is a violation of the natural rhythm of human connection. The universe, in a subtle yet undeniable way, mirrors what we put forth. Misaligned energy creates tension, exhaustion, and a sense of futility. On the other hand, when energy is matched, interaction flows effortlessly rewarding both parties. This invisible symmetry governs everything from social hierarchies to personal relationships, yet few are conscious of it. By the end of this exploration, you will begin to see human interaction not as a series of random encounters or arbitrary favors, but as a delicate system of energy exchange. You will understand that the frustration of chasing, the anxiety of being ignored, and the elation of mutual resonance are all part of a vast, intricate pattern, one that we are rarely taught to recognize, yet one that underpins nearly every human connection. And in recognizing it, we begin to ask a more important question, not why we chase, but how to stop chasing anyone who refuses to meet us where we are. The psychology behind energy. Why we chase humans are wired to chase. It is a pattern deeply etched into our biology, psychology, and social structures. From the moment we are born, we seek validation. We reach out for attention from caregivers. We strive for recognition in school, and as adults, we endlessly pursue approval in careers, relationships, and social circles. This isn't mere habit. It's a mechanism honed by evolution, a way to survive and thrive in complex social environments. But chasing is not neutral. It has consequences. It can energize us when reciprocated, or drain us when ignored. Understanding why we chase requires a journey into the hidden machinery of the mind. At the core of this behavior lies the brain's reward system. Dopamine, the chemical of anticipation and desire, spikes whenever we experience acknowledgement, even the smallest kind. A like on a post, a compliment in passing, an approving nod. All of these create a microdose of pleasure, and with each dose, the brain begins to crave more. We are, in essence, neurologically primed to pursue responses that feed our sense of worth. Yet here lies the trap. The anticipation often outweighs the reality. We become addicted not to connection itself, but to the chase, to the fleeting thrill of being seen, even momentarily. Social psychology explains this pattern further. Humans are hardwired to interpret signals, to detect alignment or misalignment in others' energy. We notice subtle cues, tone of voice, body language, or even the rhythm of interaction, and subconsciously adjust our behavior to elicit reciprocity. When the cues are positive, the brain interprets it as validation. When the cues are absent, it triggers stress and frustration, sparking further effort to regain the connection. This is why chasing feels almost irresistible. It's a feedback loop, a psychological trap that exploits our innate desire to belong. The modern world magnifies this instinct. Social media, instant messaging, and digital networks have created environments where feedback is constant yet unpredictable. Notifications, likes, and messages are intermittent rewards, an echo of the variable reinforcement schedules studied in behavioral psychology. Just as a gambler is compelled by the unpredictable payoff of a slot machine, we are drawn to interactions that may or may not reciprocate our effort. The mind interprets uncertainty as potential opportunity, pushing us to invest even when it's clear that our energy is not being matched. Yet there is a distinction between healthy pursuit and destructive chasing. Healthy pursuit occurs when energy is reciprocated, when connection is mutual, and effort is rewarded. Destructive chasing occurs when one party continually invests without reciprocity, ignoring the natural feedback signals. This is where exhaustion, resentment, and diminished self-esteem take root. Over time, repeated misalignment can distort perception, leading to an almost obsessive fixation on those who will never meet us halfway. The concept of energy matching provides clarity here. When we learn to recognize the signals of alignment, we understand that chasing is not about force, it is about resonance. Energy matching is the practice of calibrating our efforts to the natural rhythm of others, rather than trying to impose our presence where it is unwanted. It is not manipulation, nor is it withdrawal. It is conscious observation and selective engagement. The moment we internalize this principle, the compulsion to chase begins to dissolve. Historical and contemporary examples underscore this pattern. Diplomats, strategists, and social leaders who understood the psychology of energy knew when to press forward and when to retreat. In intimate relationships, couples who intuitively match energy thrive, while mismatched efforts lead to tension and eventual disengagement. Even in professional arenas, those who insist on chasing unresponsive colleagues or clients often fail, while those who align their timing and effort with others' energy achieve smoother, more effective influence. Chasing is a universal human experience, but its consequences are avoidable. Understanding the psychological underpinnings, the dopamine loop, the feedback of social signals, the pull of uncertainty, is the first step toward liberation. It reframes the narrative. The frustration of being ignored is not a reflection of our worth, but a mismatch of energy. And once we recognize this, we begin to see the path to a more strategic, balanced, and fulfilling approach to human interaction. In essence, stopping the chase is not about detachment or cynicism. It is about awareness. It is about learning to identify the invisible currents of human behavior, to respect them, and to act in harmony with them. The energy we invest should be guided by resonance, not desperation. And this realization, subtle yet transformative, marks the beginning of a shift from unconscious pursuit to conscious alignment. Historical patterns, lessons from the masters. Throughout history, those who understood the subtle currents of human energy have consistently shaped outcomes far beyond their apparent power. This was never taught in schools or written in overt guides. It was observed, internalized, and applied intuitively by those who thrived in complex social hierarchies. The court of a king, the chambers of philosophers, and the strategic councils of generals all depended on the ability to sense alignment, to match energy, and to withdraw from misaligned forces. Consider the political landscapes of Renaissance Europe, where influence was currency. Figures like Niccolò Machiavelli understood that power is not won through brute effort alone. It is won through calculated alignment and perception management. Courtiers who relentlessly chased favor often found themselves dismissed, sidelined, or worse, eliminated. Those who mastered the subtle art of matching the energy of their superiors, appearing engaged yet unpressured, assertive yet deferential, rose to prominence. Their success was not a product of flattery alone, but of attunement, understanding when to advance, when to pause, and when to withdraw. Similarly, philosophers have long recognized the invisible dynamics of social engagement. Aristotle, in discussing friendship, observed that genuine relationships require balance, mutual respect, and reciprocal attention. The effort of one without the response of another creates imbalance, tension, and eventual disengagement. This principle, while ancient, is mirrored in modern psychology. Relationships, whether social, professional, or romantic, thrive when energy flows symmetrically and decay when it does not. Even in intimate contexts, the pattern repeats. Historical anecdotes abound of unrequited affection leading to ruin, and equally of strategic patience leading to enduring alliances. Leaders, thinkers, and artists who intuitively practiced energy matching recognized that chasing often undermines influence. A poet who courted patrons too aggressively risked alienation. A revolutionary who pushed movements too forcefully risked collapse. Those who sensed the tempo of human receptivity, who matched their efforts to the natural rhythm of engagement, found that influence came effortlessly, without force. This awareness is not merely anecdotal, it is systemic. History offers countless examples of misalignment leading to failure. Diplomats who overextended themselves, generals who pursued loyalty from unreciprocating subordinates, and philosophers who preached to deaf audiences all experienced the cost of chasing. Conversely, those who mastered energy alignment, from Marcus Aurelius, who understood the temperament of his court, to Sun Tzu, who emphasized timing and responsiveness in strategy, demonstrated that recognition and influence flow naturally when one respects the invisible boundaries of others' energy. Energy matching is, therefore, not a modern invention, but a timeless principle. It is a lens through which we can interpret power, relationships, and human behavior across epochs. Those who grasped it moved with a quiet confidence, sensing when to advance, when to retreat, and when to allow circumstances to unfold organically. They understood that influence, like water, follows the path of least resistance. It cannot be forced without creating turbulence. The lesson for us today is profound. By examining historical patterns, we see a clear blueprint. The futile chase drains attention, diminishes authority, and erodes self-respect. Alignment, however, creates ease, amplifies impact, and preserves energy. The masters of history, whether politicians, philosophers, or strategists, demonstrated that true power lies not in pursuit, but in attunement. This awareness reframes our understanding of human interaction. What appears random, chaotic, or unfair is often structured by invisible rules of energy exchange. History, when read carefully, reveals that the path to influence and fulfillment is not in chasing those who withhold energy, but in moving in harmony with those whose energy resonates with ours. And it is this timeless lesson, gleaned from centuries of observation, that becomes the foundation for navigating modern social dynamics, where the principles remain the same, though the stage has changed. Modern application. Energy in the digital age. The invisible laws of energy that shaped history have not disappeared. They have simply shifted their stage. Today, human interaction has expanded into a digital realm where every like, comment, message, and post becomes a microcosm of the chase. Social media, instant messaging, and online networking amplify the psychological mechanisms that have always driven human behavior, but with far greater intensity. The stakes feel personal, yet the feedback loops are unpredictable, intermittent, and often invisible. Consider the endless scroll of a social media feed. Each post is a question cast into the digital void. Will anyone notice? Will anyone respond? Will my effort resonate? When a post receives likes or shares, dopamine surges, reinforcing the behavior and fueling a desire to chase further attention. When it is ignored, subtle stress emerges, an emotional itch that prompts repeated attempts to reclaim recognition. In this digital ecosystem, chasing is no longer just a social misalignment. It becomes a nearly addictive cycle, amplified by the algorithms that reward engagement over authenticity. The psychology of human attention has been weaponized in modern communication. Social media platforms, marketing strategies, and influencer cultures all exploit our innate drive to seek reciprocation. We are nudged, constantly and invisibly, to invest energy where it may never be matched. The intermittent reinforcement, the uncertainty of response, mirrors the very conditions that behavioral psychologists have long associated with compulsive behavior. And yet, the principle remains the same. Chasing those who do not reciprocate energy leads to exhaustion, distraction, and diminished agency. But energy matching is not lost in the digital age. It is simply more strategic. Recognizing alignment in virtual interactions becomes a conscious practice. It means identifying who responds in kind, who mirrors your engagement, and who respects your presence without coercion. In professional networking, for instance, persistent cold outreach to unresponsive contacts rarely yields meaningful results, but attuning to signals of interest, engagement, and reciprocal energy creates smoother, more effective connections. The effort is no longer wasted. It is amplified through resonance. Relationships, too, have been transformed. The psychology of modern dating, online friendships, and professional alliances is a constant negotiation of energy. People who chase endlessly online often find themselves trapped in loops of unrequited effort, while those who calibrate their interactions according to others' energy enjoy more natural, fulfilling engagement. The principle is timeless. Connection flows where energy is matched and stagnates where it is not. The medium has changed, but the pattern remains consistent. Even in high-stakes professional arenas, the lesson is clear. Overzealous pursuit of clients, collaborators, or influential figures rarely produces lasting success. Strategic alignment, reading signals, respecting boundaries, and matching effort to receptivity yields far greater results. Those who master energy matching in the digital age move with confidence, unbothered by lack of response, knowing that influence is never forced but flows naturally when resonance exists. The modern world also magnifies awareness of misalignment. Unlike historical contexts, where indifference could remain opaque, Digital platforms offer instant feedback, a lack of reply, a muted reaction, a disappeared message. This visibility can be painful, but it also provides a unique opportunity for learning. By observing where energy is reciprocated and where it is blocked, we gain clarity about who deserves our attention and who does not. Energy matching in this sense becomes both a protective mechanism and a tool for strategic engagement. In essence, the digital age exposes the timeless principle of energy matching with unprecedented clarity. Chasing has never been more visible or more futile when misalignment exists, but it also presents a chance to cultivate conscious awareness, to engage with those who resonate, and to reclaim the energy that might otherwise be squandered. The rules are the same as they were in history. Influence, recognition, and fulfillment emerge not from relentless pursuit, but from attunement, resonance, and the careful calibration of our effort to the energy we receive. This understanding transforms not only the way we interact online, but the way we navigate life itself. By observing, measuring, and responding to energy rather than compulsion, we shift from reactive chasing to deliberate alignment, a shift that frees us from exhaustion, frustration, and the endless cycle of unreciprocated effort. And in this freedom lies the first step toward mastery, both in the digital world and in life at large. Philosophical depth. The self and social reciprocity. At its core, energy matching is more than a social skill. It is a philosophical lens through which we can understand ourselves and the world around us. To recognize the alignment of energy is to recognize the boundaries of one's own presence, the limits of influence, and the flow of social reciprocity. Chasing without reflection is not merely inefficient, it erodes the self, diluting attention, willpower, and emotional resilience. Conversely, matching energy cultivates integrity, agency, and clarity. Philosophers across centuries have hinted at this principle, often in the context of ethics, virtue, and self-mastery. The Stoics, for example, emphasize the importance of controlling one's own responses rather than attempting to control the external world. Marcus Aurelius wrote of the futility of seeking approval or recognition from those unwilling to reciprocate respect or understanding. By aligning one's effort with what is naturally returned, we honor the law of reciprocity that governs both human interaction and the broader order of life. Energy matching also intersects with the psychology of self-respect. When we chase those who refuse to meet us halfway, we implicitly signal that our energy is expendable, that our presence can be taken without return. Over time, this behavior erodes self-esteem, fostering dependency on external validation. Philosophically, this represents a form of self-subjugation. We invert the natural hierarchy of attention, placing the energy of others above our own. Conversely, by learning to match energy rather than chase, we restore equilibrium. Our attention is no longer a currency given indiscriminately. It becomes a measured investment, flowing where it is welcomed and reciprocated. This principle extends beyond personal relationships into social and professional spheres. Social theorists have long observed that influence is a product of resonance, not coercion. Leaders who push too hard, educators who overextend themselves, or colleagues who demand attention often meet resistance or indifference. Those who intuitively match the energy of their environment, however, find that cooperation, respect, and loyalty emerge naturally. Energy alignment is, in essence, the architecture of social equilibrium, a framework that fosters mutual respect, sustainable engagement, and meaningful connection. The philosophical depth of energy matching is amplified when we consider the modern world. In societies dominated by constant communication, relentless comparison, and pervasive social pressure, the temptation to chase becomes nearly unavoidable. Yet the law remains unchanged. The energy we invest returns most richly when it is aligned and is wasted when it is not. Recognizing this pattern is a form of intellectual liberation. It is the realization that our pursuit of connection is not a reflection of inadequacy, but of misalignment. And in that recognition lies both empowerment and serenity. Ultimately, energy matching teaches us a fundamental truth. Human interaction is not zero-sum, but reciprocal. Each act of attention, each gesture of engagement flows most effectively when mirrored. By attuning ourselves to this rhythm, we cultivate not only more effective relationships, but also a more profound understanding of ourselves. We learn to distinguish between efforts that enrich and those that drain, between bonds that nourish and those that exhaust. The philosophical implication is clear. Freedom and fulfillment are not found in relentless pursuit of others, but in conscious alignment. To match energy is to respect both ourselves and those around us. It is to recognize that influence is earned, attention is reciprocal, and meaningful connection requires both presence and attunement. By embracing this principle, we shift from chasing an endless mirage to engaging with the world in a manner that is deliberate, balanced, and profoundly liberating. Case studies and real-world experiments. To understand energy matching in practice, it is helpful to examine real-world examples. Moments where the invisible currents of human interaction become visible through behavior, outcomes, and subtle psychological shifts. These case studies reveal not only the cost of chasing, but also the power of attuned engagement. Consider office dynamics, where social hierarchies and professional influence operate in complex, often unseen ways. An employee who constantly seeks recognition from a superior without matching the superior's energy often faces frustration and stagnation. Their emails go unanswered, their proposals ignored, and their efforts increasingly exhausting. By contrast, another employee who observes cues, timing, tone, and responsiveness learns to match their superior's rhythm. Their contributions are met with acknowledgement, collaboration, and trust. The difference is not competence or merit. It is the alignment of energy. Matching signals, rather than forcing attention, amplifies influence and preserves emotional resources. In the realm of relationships, both romantic and platonic, the principle is equally clear. A person who invests relentlessly in another who does not reciprocate creates imbalance, frustration, and eventual disengagement. On the other hand, those who intuitively or consciously align their effort with the other's openness and responsiveness experience smoother, more fulfilling interactions. Energy matching fosters mutual respect, reduces tension, and encourages organic growth in bonds, while chasing generates fatigue and emotional depletion. Historical experiments provide further insight. Consider social psychology studies on reciprocity and influence. In controlled settings, participants respond more positively when engagement is proportional and mirrored. Excessive pursuit, over-attention, or forced interaction creates resistance. Humans, whether in laboratory conditions or real-life social networks, are inherently attuned to energy. They respond best to those who meet them at their own level of effort, enthusiasm, and attention. The patterns are consistent, measurable, and replicable, illustrating the universality of this social law. Even in modern professional networking, energy matching is a decisive factor. For example, entrepreneurs often spend countless hours chasing potential partners or investors who show little interest. Those who persist without alignment frequently burn out or face rejection. Yet, when effort is calibrated to the signs of genuine interest, responses, engagement, and enthusiasm. Relationships flourish. The same logic applies to content creation, social influence, and public engagement. Audiences respond most strongly to creators who reflect their energy, timing, and values, rather than those who overextend in pursuit of attention. The psychological principle underlying these observations is straightforward. Humans are social mirrors. We instinctively reciprocate energy, enthusiasm, and attention. When someone exceeds our readiness or fails to respect our engagement, resistance and withdrawal follow. Conversely, when energy is matched, cooperation and connection emerge naturally. The implications are profound. By learning to observe, interpret, and align with the energy of others, we can redirect our effort toward interactions that are productive, meaningful, and emotionally sustainable. These case studies converge on a common truth. Chasing is not only ineffective, but counterproductive. Whether in workplaces, social circles, romantic context, or historical power structures, those who fail to align their energy expend their resources in vain. Meanwhile, those who attune themselves to the flow of human responsiveness gain influence effortlessly, cultivate trust, and preserve their own emotional equilibrium. Energy matching is thus both a strategic tool and a psychological safeguard, a way to navigate social complexity while remaining grounded, intentional, and self-respecting. By examining these real-world patterns, we see that energy matching is far more than a theoretical concept. It is a practical, actionable principle, one that allows us to conserve effort, build resonance, and interact with the world in a way that respects both ourselves and those around us. The evidence is compelling. Alignment works, chasing fails, and awareness of energy is the key that transforms human interaction from struggle to mastery. Transformation and mastery, from chaser to aligned. Transformation begins with awareness, the first step in moving from the exhaustion of chasing to the serenity of alignment is recognizing the patterns that govern our social interactions. Understanding energy matching is not merely intellectual, it is a lived experience. It requires observing how others respond to our presence, measuring the reciprocity of attention, and discerning the invisible cues that reveal alignment or misalignment. Once this awareness is cultivated, the journey toward mastery can truly begin. Mastery is not about manipulation or control. It is about attunement. Those who chase seek to impose their presence. Those who align allow presence to flow naturally. This distinction is subtle, yet transformative. By calibrating effort to the energy we receive, we conserve emotional resources and avoid the draining cycle of unreciprocated pursuit. Patience becomes a tool, not a passive waiting, but a conscious strategy of observing, responding, and engaging where resonance exists. In practical terms, transformation manifests in everyday life. Consider relationships. Rather than pressing for attention from someone who consistently withdraws, the aligned individual invests energy in those who reflect engagement and interest. In professional environments, they focus on collaborators whose energy matches their own, creating smoother, more productive interactions. Even casual social exchanges benefit. Conversations flow naturally, mutual respect emerges, and both parties experience a sense of ease that is impossible when chasing dominates. The psychological impact of this shift is profound. When we stop chasing, we reclaim agency over our attention, our time, and our emotional well-being. The compulsion to seek validation diminishes, replaced by a quiet confidence rooted in self-respect. The external world no longer dictates our sense of worth. Instead, we engage selectively, intentionally, and strategically. This is the essence of transformation, replacing reactive behavior with conscious alignment, exhaustion with empowerment, and anxiety with clarity. Transformation also carries a philosophical dimension. By mastering energy alignment, we embrace a form of social wisdom. We recognize that connection is not a right, but a flow, that influence is earned through resonance, and that effort invested without reciprocity is not virtue, but self-depletion. The mastery of alignment is thus both practical and existential, freeing us from the cycle of chasing while deepening our understanding of human interaction and our own inner value. Ultimately, the shift from chaser to aligned individual is a reclaiming of autonomy. It is the realization that human energy, attention, and engagement are finite resources, not to be squandered on those who cannot or will not meet us halfway. By internalizing this principle, we step into a life where interactions are intentional, connections are meaningful, and presence is powerful. The mastery of energy matching is not merely a social skill, it is a path to psychological freedom, emotional resilience, and authentic influence in a world that constantly tests the boundaries of attention and effort. Conclusion: the freedom of alignment. As we reach the culmination of this journey, the pattern becomes unmistakably clear. The chase is a drain. Alignment is liberation. Throughout history, psychology, and modern social dynamics, one truth emerges. Human energy flows naturally, where it is reciprocated, and efforts imposed where it is not are wasted, exhausting, and often fruitless. Recognizing this principle is not merely an intellectual exercise. It is a profound act of self-liberation. Freedom begins with awareness. Once we understand that connection is governed by reciprocal energy, we stop measuring our worth by the responses of those unwilling to engage. The compulsion to chase diminishes, replaced by a quiet confidence rooted in self-respect. Interactions no longer dictate our emotional state. Instead, we enter relationships, conversations, and collaborations with intentionality and discernment. The result is a radical shift, from living reactively to living consciously. In practical terms, the benefits of energy alignment are transformative. We conserve emotional and cognitive resources, focusing on relationships and pursuits that naturally resonate with our own energy. We reduce anxiety, stress, and the self-doubt that often accompanies unreciprocated effort. Social dynamics, once unpredictable and exhausting, become navigable terrains where engagement flows smoothly, trust develops organically, and influence arises naturally rather than through force. This is not a promise of universal ease, but of clarity, efficiency, and respect for both ourselves and others. The philosophical dimension of alignment is equally significant. By choosing to match energy rather than chase, we reclaim agency over our time, attention, and effort. We acknowledge a fundamental truth: influence, recognition, and meaningful connection cannot be extracted through coercion or relentless pursuit. They emerge through resonance, patience, and attunement. This realization reshapes our understanding of human interaction, inviting a more deliberate, intentional approach to relationships, work, and social engagement. It is a lesson both ancient and timeless, echoed from the halls of history to the algorithms of the digital age. Energy alignment also carries an ethical resonance. It encourages respect for boundaries, our own and others. To chase is often to override these boundaries, to impose effort where it is not welcome, and to devalue the natural equilibrium of exchange. By matching energy, we honor both our presence and that of others, fostering interactions rooted in mutual respect, understanding, and authenticity. This is not a strategy for manipulation. It is a philosophy for living harmoniously within the social currents that surround us. Perhaps the most profound outcome of embracing energy matching is internal freedom. The endless cycle of seeking approval and attention no longer governs our thoughts and behaviors. We become observers and participants in human interaction, aware of when to engage and when to withdraw, understanding that value is not measured by external validation, but by the quality of reciprocal connection. Our sense of self becomes independent of others' responses, grounded instead in conscious choice and intentional action. As we conclude, the lesson resonates across every facet of life. The power of energy matching lies in its subtlety, universality, and depth. Chasing fades insignificance, replaced by a deliberate, mindful approach to human connection. In this space, relationships are strengthened, influence is amplified, and emotional energy is preserved. The freedom of alignment is not passive, it is active, profound, and transformative, offering a pathway to clarity, authenticity, and enduring psychological resilience. Ultimately, the mastery of energy is the mastery of presence. By understanding the natural flow of human interaction, we step into a life where effort is invested wisely, attention is given meaningfully, and connections are nurtured consciously. It is here, in this alignment, that we discover a new kind of power. A power that does not demand, coerce, or chase, but flows effortlessly, naturally, and with enduring impact.